Just little minor stuff.
Okay.
We're done.
All right, here we go. Okay, it is July 3rd, 2025.
Yeah, you're right.
It is now 12:34 p.m. and I am going to call the Library Board Bylaws and Policies Committee to order. We're going to start with a roll call, please.
Erica Grammer.
And Mike Bryan.
Okay, and Joanna Daniels. At this time, we are the only people on this committee. Okay, I'm gonna.
Can you
We're
tell
now
us
going
what
to
their
do.
roles
Please,
are?
please.
Please what?
Please, we will ask for public to come. So, we're doing the invocation. Heavenly Father, we just come before you right now, Lord. We just thank you so much for today. We thank you, Lord, for all your many blessings, Lord. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for the time that we have here today and to be able to come together and to create policies to serve you and to serve the county. We just praise you, Lord God. We ask that you be here with us right now and you give us the words, the wisdom, discernment, and understanding. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Erica.
Second.
Second by Mike.
I do need to mention that unfortunately I have some limitations on time, so I will be able to be here for an hour.
For an hour? Okay. All right, thank you for letting us know. All right. For the approval of the agenda, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to recognition of the public. And for everybody to know, this is a committee meeting. This is not a board meeting. Therefore, what happens here has to be voted on by the full board. So you can make comments today. However, you can also make comments at the board meeting as well. And due to a time constraint that we have, I'm limiting public comment to 2 minutes per person, as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. And I am the chair of the board of the committee meeting. Okay. All right. So we are going to start off with Brooklyn White. And if you could, please come over here to this corner. Please state your name and your address, and I will set a timer for you. And just ask that when the timer goes off that you wrap it up for us, okay? Okay. Appreciate it, and thank you so much. And you may go ahead.
My name is Brooklyn White. I live at 933 Sunset Drive in Gallatin. Following the last library board meeting, there were some proposed changes that were brought to that meeting about the transgender and gender confusion section. And especially given that there's suggestions that library directors will be held liable for that policy, I just have some specific concerns about the wording of that policy and how that will play out today. As a reminder, we have 23 chromosomes, and that 23rd chromosome is that sex chromosome that we talk about. I'd like to remind you that there's all sorts of disorders with chromosomes in general, such as chromosomes with the 21st chromosome. We see trisomy where there's that 3rd chromosome brought over, and that is known as Down syndrome. Those happen as well with the sex chromosome. These abnormalities can cause abnormalities with like the testicles, the ovaries, other body parts, and those also affect the people that have those. There are things such as deletions or changes to the second X chromosome, such as with Fragile X syndrome, that causes sex or abnormalities, but it also causes issues like learning disabilities, autism. So my concern with restrictive language here is that, well, it's trying to target that gender confusion or that transgender aspect. We're going to actually hurt other topics from being able to be widely accessible in our library. My question is, if parents want to find research about autism or Fragile X syndrome or those things, are they going to be shelved away differently because there's mention of gender confusion, sex changes, issues with the 23rd chromosome? There are also intersex individuals, and those have to do with chromosomal abnormalities as well. In that case, when somebody's born intersex, they might have parts of multiple different genders, and their parents decide at birth what their gender will be.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mandy Cook.
Hi.
Hi.
So my name is Mandy. I am specifically concerned about the section relating to protecting children from explicit materials. I use books to teach my son about complex subjects like bodies, consent, anatomy, and the books that I've utilized have come from the children's section of the Hendersonville Public Library. I have checked those books out myself. Under the new terminology within that section, any nudity or any contact with genitalia is considered too explicit for that section. And as a parent, I can tell you that moving a book from the children's section and placing it somewhere else, you might as well be placing it on the moon, because chasing a toddler around the library can be a little complicated. I would not have been able to access those books with my child in tow if that policy used to be in place. I also used books to help guide my son through the weaning process, and those books frequently would depict women nursing their children. Those books would also now be considered too explicit for the children's section and too complicated to access for a parent. So I think that this policy is overreaching. I think it's going to complicate access for parents and for children. And we know that teaching kids about their bodies and about consent early and accurately is important and makes them less vulnerable to abuse. So I don't think that's something we want to encourage. And to me, this policy clearly communicates that things like this are best left to library directors and not at the discretion of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessa McKinney.
All right, Jessie McKinney, and I live at 209 Waterview Drive in Hendersonville. I'm here to talk specifically about the Collections and Development Management Policy. As a taxpayer-funded institution, public libraries may not censor or selectively deny patrons access to viewpoints and ideas that the library board does not agree with or support. When board members attempt to restrict, redact, remove, or relocate materials based on their personal viewpoints, they are infringing on First Amendment protections. With the proposed section titled Transgender and Gender Confusing Materials, this library board intends to literally ban books from the library simply because they contain transgender characters or mention transgender people. This is censorship of ideas based on the opinions of the board members. The First Amendment protects against government censorship or restriction of speech based on the content and ideas within that speech. The First Amendment also protects access to the right to read and information included in books in the library. The Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment mandates that no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. The policy's removal of books including transgender people will subject trans community members to unequal treatment by infringing on their ability to access library materials positively reflecting themselves and their families. I've emailed you all a copy of relevant U.S. court cases to review, and I urge you to review them with an attorney so that you understand the personal legal exposure that you will create to yourself if you pass this policy. In closing, I want to remind you to focus on the matter at hand. This is not about gender-affirming medical care for minors. This is not about the state's recognition of transgender people. This is not even about librarians curating a collection. It's about the government's censorship of ideas. We cannot allow governmental bodies to restrict access to information simply because they dislike or disagree with that information, and that's what this policy attempts to do.
Thank you. Carrie Callison? Carrie Callison?
I will pass it this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Elizabeth Broadway or
Broadway.
Broadway? Okay.
Yes.
I'm Elizabeth Broadway. I live at 160 South Tunnel in Portland. I have 2 children here today. I'm also married to a woman, and we have trans friends. We have people in this county that deserve to be seen and heard in their families. And I feel like so many other people have already stated, government's infringement upon people's choice in how they live their lives is not up to them, and it's a government establishment. And we and my children are allowed to see themselves in books and in places that they should be allowed to be seen. We also have children like my son who doesn't actually read very well. Yes, he's in 1st grade, but we have issues. Picture books are a way to have a conversation with him. And so censoring what is visually acceptable or not acceptable is also a huge problem for people and children who can't, and we know adult literacy is just as big of a problem. So there are adults who would access children's information that would allow them to actually understand their body, understand what's going on in their life and in their world in a more accessible way. So not just kids, but also adults with learning disabilities and different things like that, that these things would help them. And moving them, kind of like somebody else had already said, I have a child in a wheelchair. We can barely get around the Gallatin Library. Some days she wants to participate. Things aren't accessible or easily accessible. So moving things, changing things around is just not something that I think a board should have the ability to do, or as a government agency should have the ability to do. We're here, we're in the community, and our kids deserve to be their friend. They deserve to see their friends in books. They deserve to see all that kind of stuff. So hopefully what is in here is not going to come to fruition.
Thank you. All right. Lisa Broca? Braca?
I changed what I'm going to speak about.
Excuse me, miss, can you please go over there?
Is there any reason?
Yes.
I have a bad leg, 8 broken bones in
You're not gonna be, you're gonna barely be on camera.
it. I don't care. I can barely walk, and I just finished chemo yesterday.
Okay.
I came prepared to speak about something, but I'm changing it because that was very rude the way you addressed me. I simply wanted to know who their titles were. I'm new to this. I'm 66. I just suffered 9 times with cancer, and you snapped at me, and it is not a sign of a good leader. And I will put my energy into getting you out of your position. Thank you.
Okay. And Jill Fernelius?
Wednesday, Jill Cornelius, 180 Copper Circle in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I came today not with any sort of script. I've been watching this board over the last several years after the Hendersonville Library was unfairly terminated after the Kirk Cameron event. And I think the thing that I really wanted to express today after reading what some of the changes were is basically comes down to human decency. I think other presenters have very poignantly pointed out that from a legal perspective, there are some very real risks here. From a scientific community, medical community perspective, this policy is so poorly written to actually accurately reflect even the transgender community in general. Where I really have come in and been motivated to not only email both the library board in the past as well as county commissioners is what you guys start your meetings out with, which is prayer, and saying that you are going to try to bring God into this community through hate. Because that's what this policy reflects. It reflects certain people who hate the LGBTQIA community. And that breaks my heart. As a Christian woman, as a mother, that breaks my heart. That is not a reflection of Jesus or those who follow Jesus. And if it is, you're not following him. Please take the plank out of your own eye. I would like to give one anecdotal evidence as to how this is actually harming people who are outside of the LGBTQIA community. I am a mother. I have 2 kids, neither of them are transgendered. However, one of my sons has long hair. Solely based on the fact that he has long hair, he has people who are raised by individuals in Sumner County who also hate the LGBTQIA community, who will bully him and call him transgendered because stuff like this is allowed to exist. So I'm here today to say this is not a reflection of the Christian community. The LGBTQIA community is amazing here in Sumner County, and they have the right to exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Hilton? Sarah Hilton?
Sarah Hilton, 1259 Peyton Lane in Gallatin. I also don't have anything prepared. I just wanted to echo what the other speakers said, and my concerns with the policy, again, is that it's just trying to erase a set of people. My kids have never been harmed by a book. We go to the library often. I have a very avid reader who's 12, and as a parent who's very involved in her child's life, if she happened to read a book that maybe was on a topic we hadn't addressed yet, we have an open communication, and that would lead us to more conversations to help her maybe understand something she didn't. So again, they've never been harmed by a book. The only time we've ever had a scary incident at the library is when someone left a gun in the Hendersonville Library bathroom. We happened to be there that day, so that was scary, having just a gun sitting around. So with the library policy, just really understanding that, like, books are not harmful. There's other things we should focus on with the library to help our children. Paying attention to the speakers would probably be a nice added bonus than whatever you've been doing throughout our comments.
And continues to do.
Well, she's a grown-up, so I guess she can make her own decisions. But again, we're also parents of the children. We are also grown-ups and can make our own choices. And these books aren't jumping off the shelves and falling into kids' hands. If a parent is there and they're paying attention to their child, if they grab a book that they don't want, they could just put it in the green bin at the end of the shelves and go about their day. So I don't think we should take away books that are going to make other people feel included in the community.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our recognition of public. All right, and approval of the minutes from April 2nd, 2025.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Erica, second by Mike. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Second minutes move, pass. Okay, all right, so now we are moving on to old business. First, we have the mission statement. We've kind of kicked this down the road a few times. And would you guys like to take this on today, or would you like to? I know that we're really strained on time, so unfortunately.
I would like to, I want for us to not keep kicking it. We just have had so many things that we've been working on. I suggest that we move it one more time where we can have conversation because of limitation of time. I know that they're not here necessarily for that conversation, and I think we should move that to old business one more time.
Okay.
Make a motion, we do that, move it to the next meeting.
So, Mike, you're making a motion? Okay.
Yeah.
Second.
All right. Erica. All right. All in favor say aye to
Aye.
move mission statement to the old business. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The unattended children policy. We have kicked this one down the road also a few times. And I do apologize, guys. I'm a little discombobulated. I've had a few family emergencies this morning. That's the reason why I was running late, and then got caught in traffic, and so I'm a little bit discombobulated because I had a major scare this morning. So I do apologize.
Can you show me what that paper looks like?
It's actually in that's the one I didn't send. I said it was in your policy packet that I had sent a while back. But let me find it here.
In the interest of time, I think I would make
Okay.
a motion that we push that to the next meeting as well,
Okay.
so we can move on.
It's basically the unattended, you want to move it into
Mhm.
old business? Okay. Would you like to move it into old business?
Yes, second.
Okay, all right. Okay. The computer use policy, this we have to review once every year, and I just put this on here. I don't think that we need to make any changes to it. It's what we created back in 2023. I don't think there's anything that needs to be updated to my knowledge, and so that is the old one. Is that the one I accidentally sent you guys?
Yeah, this one was
Okay,
printed.
yeah, so the one that, I apologize, because the one that we created,
This one's November 22nd, 2023.
okay, yeah, that one's it, sorry, yes, sorry.
I didn't remember
Sorry.
seeing anything further with it.
Okay, I was looking at this one, and this is the old one that was in the old packet, and I was like, wait, hold on a second, that's the wrong one. So, yes, that's the one that we created in 2023, so.
I didn't see anything that necessary changes. I think.
Let me grab my computer.
Because we made the necessary changes at that time.
For all the current technology and that kind of
Cecilia
thing.
had mentioned, right?
Yeah,
And so. I mean,
everything that.
This is us just putting our eyes on it for the year, this year.
Yes.
Because I didn't see anything that needed to change. I think that is clean and clear.
Yeah,
And at the time, this was all looked at by the directors too, so they could know about computer usage and that
Right.
kind of stuff.
This is
The
clear, it's
limitation
been
of-
being used, yeah,
Okay.
since 2023, so.
yes, yeah,
We were required to get this kind of cleaned up and cleared, clearer writing and things by regional. We did it back then. It's cleared through everything. It's just, like she said, we just have to look at it yearly
Okay.
to make
Yeah.
sure, see if anything needs to be updated. I don't see
Yeah.
anything that needs to be updated.
okay.
Because I think it's been working.
I think there hasn't been any
Working smoothly.
complaints by anybody,
Yeah,
so,
so was that with the directors and everything?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've been functioning under it since 2023, so.
Okay.
Make a motion, we approve it as stated and for the next year.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. All right, motion passes. Book signing policy. Concerns were brought up about this. I'll entertain a motion to open this up for discussion.
Okay. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstention? Abstention, I said extension. All right, and that was so moved by, sorry, was that you, Mike, or was that you, Erica?
I made the
Okay.
motion,
You
you
did.
seconded.
I apologize.
Well-
I had a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the book signing policy. All right. The only thing that I remember the attorney, the law director said was that in this we had put approval by the book signing event shall be communicated via email to the board before it is approved by the library director. If there's a written objection by a majority of the present board members, then the book signing will not be able to take place. He said that we actually couldn't do that in an email because any deliberation or any vote would have to be at a public meeting.
Okay.
So that was the part that he had said that we wouldn't be able to do that. All promotional materials must be sent via email to the board before it is distributed to the public. And then if there's a written objection by a majority of the present board members, then the promotional materials will need to be changed and resent to the board for review. So that cannot happen. There can't be anything, med time, meds, for somebody, so, okay. Okay, so
So we need to remove that wordage,
we need to remove that verbiage and,
create a chain
yeah, a chain of command. So it could be, when it comes to book signing events, it's a privilege for someone to come in and do a book signing event. You know what I mean? And of course, there needs to be even an interest at all from the director. So we could even put in here, the author will need to fill out the facility usage application and agreement and sign an affidavit stating that the book does not violate the harmful to minors policy in place in Sumner County. We could even put, before that, the author must first check with the library director to see if there's interest from the library director. Because I don't think that the author should come to us first. I mean, it should be the director's choice to even decide if it's even something that they feel is good for the community, that they're even interested in doing. So I think putting maybe some of that verbiage in of, director has first, I don't want to say right of refusal, but first, director must first determine interest and validity of the book, and then once the director feels that they feel it would fit, then the author can fill out the facility and usage.
Do we have a form that they fill out?
It's just that as of right now, we have nothing around
Okay,
this.
so there's not a form that they fill out?
No.
There wasn't anything prior to us starting to
Okay.
work on this, so.
No. Now, back in 2017, 2018, 2019, they had started, because our library system, or our library, is lacking in a lot of policies. And so they, back in those few years and in 2019, that's what you got, this whole big, thick of drafts
Yeah.
of policies.
Yeah.
They were working on this before we even got on the board, because I got on the board in 2022, and then 2023, you're 2024, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm like, which,
Yeah.
so, they obviously felt that our libraries were lacking in a lot of policies. And this is one of the policies that they felt it was lacking in. And so,
How does it work now? Like what's
now-
happening now?
as it stands right now, the library director has full authority over it.
Okay.
But there's not really a telltale way of people knowing, authors knowing how to do it, because it's not been
Like, 'cause
in
we just got an
policy.
email.
So it's not
from
like a
from an
map of
author.
how to, like, if I'm I've written a book, I wanna present it, how do I do that?
Yeah.
There's not like a way of doing that.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it's one of the, so, I mean, I do wanna take a moment to say, one of the reasons why policies are beautiful is because it helps everyone be on the same page,
Yeah, it's
right?
structure.
And so
gives
it's
you the
just,
structure.
policies are not bad things. They are just an agreed upon group of direction.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's sad to me that when we say the word policy, that we have visceral responses. Sometimes we will agree on policies and sometimes we will not, but policies are helpful for everyone involved, so we are on the same page and we know what to expect or what not to
Sure.
expect.
Yeah.
So I think what's important about this is there has been no direction and there is always confusion, and then that's what I like. I'm a streamliner. I like to help things get
Mhm.
clear.
Yeah.
So like for me, what I'd like to see come out of this is just be clear communication on what the pathway is, who to first approach, what we need to present. And then there are things like whether it, violates the material harmful to minors policy and things like that. But it's just, we haven't had a pathway that's been clear. And I would like to see that communicated. Thing about policies is that there's a learning curve to what works in each, in the libraries, and what doesn't smoothly work, and we do care about that.
Sure.
So no matter what is said on a regular basis. So, I think that we just need to, how is it that it has been functioning, and what have been the healthy aspects of that?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So does an author
And
right
what
now?
needs to be different, like how does that, what's that path?
Right
Yeah.
now, the authors have no idea how
Yeah,
to
just
go
wondered
to.
if
Because
they-
sometimes
Yeah.
they send it to us, and
Libraries or-
sometimes they send it to them, and sometimes there's just a
Yeah.
lot of confusion of what to do. And
Yeah.
then when we get it, we're like, this should go to this. So, we would like for authors to do what?
So I was
the
just
path?
gonna put first step, second step, third step. So I don't know, this is my thoughts. First step is the author submit book and promotional materials to the director. And then the director decides on whether it's something
Interest.
of interest,
Time for it.
value is everything. Third, if director feels it will is
Give
something
interest
that
to the
of
community
interest to
or-
the community,
yeah.
then the author shall fill out the facility. What is it? The facilities and usage. What I have in there, the facility usage application agreement, and then the director submits. It's up at the top there. The author will
Oh,
need
okay.
it. And then the director will submit the application along with promotional materials and information from the author to be voted on and approved by the board. I mean, what?
So, okay, so author presents it to library directors,
Mhm.
the information. Library director determines whether there's interest, whether they can schedule it, whether
Vetting.
all the different things, right? And then what's the next step?
Once it's determined, yes, then the,
So library director says
The
yes
author-
to
Present it to the
author?
board for
Is that what
approval.
you're saying? So the yes would come from the library directors to the author, and then the author's next step would be?
to fill out the application and agreement.
Okay. And then where does that paper go? Does that go to the library director and the library directors bring it to us?
Mhm.
Like at our board meeting?
I was just thinking, like,
Or
literally,
email?
because that way he knows the agreement with everything, with the facility usage, and that he goes, yeah, because we don't want to run into a Kirk Cameron event again. And so then that way everybody has everything, they look at everything, and then everybody's on the same page, and then it's sent to the board for approval, everything, once the whole package is.
Through the library director.
Yes.
So author contact will be with library directors,
Mhm.
from what I hear, all of that. Library directors will be in communication with board
Mhm.
directly. So authors are not having to
Go to us at
be
all.
confused of where to go. They would just go directly to library directors.
Their communication is
Okay.
solely
I
with the
think that's
library
actually
director.
good.
And
That
then
makes sense because it, you know, that's where you would naturally go if you had a book.
And they
you want to
natu-
do a signing at a library, you contact the library.
Well, you'd think it would be naturally, but.
I mean, I would think so, but. I
And,
mean,
well, and I only say this because I've looked at a few other, and some people go to the board, so like in Escondido, where I came from, authors would go to the board. But then in San Diego County, they would go to the director, and you're like, so in all honesty, it's two different ways, but
Yeah.
in my
Just
opinion.
need to have a bucket that it goes in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in my opinion, since we have 5 library directors and they've been doing these book signings already, and it's, most authors have already gone to the directors, I just say, let's just keep it there first, you know what I'm saying?
And I like that because, I mean, they're developing the relationship and connection with library directors of
And
that
the
specific
community,
space.
what the community's
And that
interested in.
way, I mean, like, to me, I think that's very healthy. I see pros and cons either way, because there are 5, so they would have to go approach each of the 5 if they wanted their book in each of the 5 compared to the board. But, you know, I think that developing those connections are actually the healthier, more natural way of doing that. Is doing it through the library directors.
The only reason I've seen to go to the board is so that the library directors don't have to be the ones to say no.
Well, and I
Does
hear
make
that too.
sense? Because
There's a
then,
lot of pros and
because
cons either
then,
way,
you
but-
know, they could say, well, my board said
Right.
no, not
There's a
me.
protection.
There's a protection to
Yeah.
the library director, you know what I mean? Then
Which
we
we
look
like
like
to
the big
provide
bad,
no matter
we
what
look
is
like the
being
big
said.
bad person instead of them, you
Yes.
know?
We do like to provide protection for our library
We
directors.
do.
We really do care about each of our library directors and each of our libraries.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, okay, so you guys feel it should go to the library director first? Is that what we're
Mhm.
at?
Mhm.
So.
Author to library director.
Author to the library director.
To initially determine
yeah.
interest, schedule, interest and schedule. And the library director would get back in touch with.
Has full authority to determine interest and vetting of the author and book. 3, if the library director determines the book is a fit for the
Excuse me, do you take questions from the public?
library, we do not,
Do you take any questions from the public?
is fit for the library.
I'm gonna explain something.
Go ahead,
just out.
while you're doing that.
So, a lot of
The
times
book
it's
is a fit
misunderstood
for-
why we don't do that, and it can feel rude. It is simply because we are functioning under,
Robert's rules.
Robert's rules. I'm like, I can't even remember my name. And so Robert's rules are when there's a committee meeting, it's for the table committee And there is a public time, and we're glad to do that. And we would, and if I'm not gonna be able to be hanging out after, but I'm even open to talk to you after. But during our meetings, comments and, questions, we can't just pop in and out constantly. And even when we do, we have to actually put Robert's rules on pause. We have to agree to that. Then we have to do, so it just creates a lot more of a time consumption and confusion. So that's why we don't. So sometimes it feels very rude.
And actually, we should have broken those rules.
I know, and I'm actually breaking Robert's rules right now to even be talking.
And I understand Robert's
So,
rules, so.
yes, so much respect and actually more appreciation than you realize, but that is why. We just don't explain that every meeting.
Okay.
And thank you for letting me break Robert's rules.
Okay. All right, so what I can do is we've decided on the progress, right? I will put that into the book signing, and then I will send it off to you guys and to the library board, but we have the basic outline of
Yeah,
the.
we have the concept.
Of the
And we
concept.
have done this through email before,
Yes.
communication because of
Yeah.
meeting.
Yes, so, all right, so then, all right, so basically then it will be voted on by the library board and then approval or disapproval, correct?
Yep.
Is that concept?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes, I agree.
okay.
Do we need to pass or do anything?
Mhm.
Do we-
Yeah, so I'll entertain a motion to send the amended book signing policy with changes onto the board for approval.
So moved.
So,
So moved by Mike, second by Erica, yeah?
sorry, second, yes. I said so moved, yes, that was an echo of that.
Okay.
Second, yes.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, all right. Okay. All right, so now we're moving on to new business, which is old business but new business because it came back to committee, is the collection and development policy. Let me bring this up here. So, everyone has been able to sit with the one that came out of this committee in April. Been able to sit with that for a while. And then at the last meeting, I did give you some notes, and I did choose to go ahead and I would like to bring those back for review and to look at for possible changes to this policy. I am not thinking straight today. I apologize. I just put all my computer's on it. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Let me get this real quickly in front of me, both of these. All right, so the first section, as you guys have in this one with the green, is what came out of this policy, out of this committee. And then the one that I handed out at the board meeting has the highlighted changes, and that I personally have brought forward and am bringing forward again for today. In the selection process, what came out of committee, it says, and I'm gonna have to grab my glasses because my eyes are jumping all over the place. And I don't know, oh, they're there, okay. So if you read my changes, I added, the library board pursuant to its governmental policy responsibility to curate a collection for public use has the authority to remove or order the removal of any materials from the collection, including but not limited to those that may violate state and local laws. As a library board, as been stated by the attorney and been stated numerous times, the buck stops with us. If there is something in the collection that violates state law, not only is that something that reflects badly on us, but also has been told by us, when we had to come up with the first collection and development policy, it could impair state funding as well. It is extremely important that we are in compliance with state laws. So
In compliance?
in compliance.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It sounded like in
Oh,
compliance.
sorry.
I was just making sure I understood.
Yes, in compliance. Yes. And being the governing body, we have the authority to remove books. So I put that in there, and it's just I think that there is a confusion, and if you look at the TCA law concerning library boards and their governmental things, it sometimes can be confusing because you've got metro and you've got county, and we're county, and a lot of people don't understand that the powers and the responsibilities of the board, and so that's why I put that in there. So just moving on to the selection guide. The selection of any material for the library's collection does not constitute an endorsement of its contents. All library materials will adhere to all city and county ordinances and state and federal laws. Books and materials containing sexual things or content are reviewed by the library director to determine if the content goes against the policy for protecting children from harmful sexually explicit material in the library and for age appropriateness, and then cataloged accordingly, even if this overrides the age appropriateness recommended by the publisher. Said decision can be appealed to the library board by an individual or brought to the library board by an individual thereof. So this is stating that basically if you disagree, then it can be brought to us.
And that's been understood because of other forms that we have. That's just working that into the wording to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not, none of this so far is changing anything from what I hear.
No, nothing.
This is just the way it works. It's just putting it together so that the concept is together.
Correct, yes. On the second page, well, it's second page for this one, but it says the development plan. I put the primary goal of collection development is to provide materials for the community while curating a safe environment for all ages to meet these goals for the library.
Did you just change 4?
So, yes.
Is that what you're reading?
Yes.
Or you just changed 4?
Needs of the community, it says 4, yes, so I just put it to 4.
Just to clean up.
Just to clean it up. For the community while creating, instead of like needs of the community while creating, just says for the community.
Mm-hmm.
So just cleaned it up.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I can see where you've changed, like you're just cleaning up wording, right? And in educational materials, that's just.
Yes, so like this says with an emphasis on informational, educational, and factually correct materials. I was like, that's a lot of verbiage that doesn't need to be in there.
Yeah.
Informational and educational materials. And then,
So that does include educational materials.
Yes.
So there's a lot of confusion that very commonly comes with that, right?
mhm, yeah,
So our educational materials are still available.
yeah.
Okay.
Then strives to provide materials that conform to the fundamental law informing and defining the unalienable rights protected by the Tennessee Constitution and the Constitution of the United States.
So it previously said,
It just said materials that uphold, but when
Yes.
I was speaking and getting advice,
right.
it
it's
was
just the
better
wordage
to
of-
conform to the fundamental law informing and defining. Because uphold is
Right.
what, you know what I mean? So,
So sometimes we have to define what is intended or meant, just
Mhm.
so that we're clear.
yes. And then I know that there was concern about getting additional copies. So I made sure in the next one, put additional copies will be written by written request to the library board.
Yes.
So that way, and then the next one is the tools. This is where we wanted to take any reference to the American Library Association. And the library directors shall not pay dues to any organization such as the American Library Association or affiliates of the American Library Association. Secretary of State Trey Hargett sent out a memo a few years ago saying that the Tennessee does not endorse the ALA, is not a member of it, and in no way says that it wants to be a member of the ALA. And in my opinion, anything that's referencing the ALA does not need to be anywhere in our collection and development policy because it's not something that we endorse.
It's consistent with the state law, basically.
Well, with Secretary of State stating that we don't endorse it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then nothing else changes until you go under the library director, Sean, so it page 4 and page 5. It comes after SIPA, says, the library director shall ensure that no materials containing anything in the paragraph above is within reach of a minor and shall take all necessary steps to ensure that no minors will have access to any such materials in any section of the libraries. Steps shall include, but not limited to, because again, we want to define this, right? Making a separate section with a separate catalog process in addition to holding material behind an area monitored by an employee. These steps are the responsibility of the library director, and no responsibility shall be put on the public in the form of requiring permission slips from patrons or guardians of minors or individual requesting that materials be placed in an area inaccessible to minors. Library directors shall be proactive in implementing this policy. The library board shall have full authority under TCA 10.3.104 to hold the library director accountable.
So I'd like to say something to this. I actually like that this is in here. We have been under scrutiny from November 22nd, 2023 about not having this in writing. I like the fact that it's in writing. We, at that time, I know my intention and anything I ever heard any of us say was to actually trust the library directors of how to handle that, because there were options, there were multiple options. With there being 5 libraries, there are 5 different buildings and what they could accommodate or not. And so I know my intention and anything I ever heard from anyone else's intentions were to actually let the TCA speak for itself, because it gave suggestions of thoughts. We did not put that in writing, and we were critiqued highly for that up to now. I like that it's in writing. I know that my intention was to actually trust the library directors and had offered personal willingness to come troubleshoot ideas if they needed ideas. When I've asked any of the library directors, they said they didn't have any problems, that they were working with it, no problem, and they had come up with their options. And that's what I want. I want them to have that freedom in
Yeah.
each of their buildings.
Autonomy.
But I'm glad that this is in writing because we are giving direction, further direction, and making that real clear so everybody's on the same page. We all understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
I know what to expect and they know what is expected. I think that that's good. I think the wording's great.
Okay. Transgender and gender confusing materials. There shall be no materials in the collection of the libraries of Sumner County subjecting, introducing, condoning, or encouraging a minor to identify with or live as a purported identity inconsistent with his or her biological sex at birth, as described in Act 2023 PC1. There shall be no materials in the collection of the libraries of Sumner County subjecting, introducing, condoning, or encouraging any persons age 18 and older to identify with or live as purported identity inconsistent with the sex they are assigned at birth, as defined in TCA 421-102. Library director shall be proactive in implementing this policy. The library board shall have full authority over TCA 10.3-104 to hold the library director accountable. We have full authority to curate what comes into the library and what goes out of the library. There is no protected classes in the state of Tennessee at this time, and this does not violate any First Amendment or any legal, anything legal anywhere. As a matter of fact, in South Carolina, there is a policy that was implemented that's actually even stricter than this. It is talking about LGBTQ. It's talking about gay and lesbians, and this is just having to do with transgender. So the following principles. So this. Again, we are a governmental policy, governmental board, and the monies that are used to fund the library are taxpayers, and as it is right now, even in the state of Tennessee, well, you can opt out in a public school to teach about transgenderism. And right now, in the state of Tennessee, in a public school, which is funded by tax dollars, you cannot even teach about transgender or LGBTQ lifestyle. So going in line with what is already in law and what is already being done with our tax dollars, this just goes in alignment with what's being taught in schools.
It's just restating what's already in the law.
It's restating, yes, and I think even right now, I think President Trump just said that all parents are allowed to get out of LGBTQ classes, and the Supreme Court did uphold the Tennessee law on bathrooms and transgender bathrooms, and then also with the surgeries. So there is transgender people are not a protected class in the state of Tennessee. So, and therefore, tax dollars do not have to be used for it. The rest of the stuff really isn't much different. I did with the monetary gifts because of the donation issues that we're having right now. I went in and I clarified unrestricted monetary gifts versus restricted monetary gifts.
I'm glad because that'll be to the benefit of the libraries.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Really, that's about it.
I think that.
And then just the director will notify the board within 24 hours if the materials are challenged due to the policy for protecting children. I just think that it's a good thing for us to know if something's being challenged. So those are my changes. And, I know that she
I
has.
do like that you added.
Oh, yes, and have you read or reviewed the material? I added that back in.
Because.
Because people can say yes or no.
Yeah, I'm glad that, I mean,
I-
people need to be reading the material that they're
Yeah.
questioning, so I agree with that,
Mhm.
100%.
So that open up for discussion, I know you only have a few more
I
minutes
have
to
like
go.
2 seconds here at this point. so.
I know that, so what are your thoughts, Mike, what are your thoughts, Erica?
Well, I mean, my thoughts are, I know personally, I can only speak for myself, but I'm sad that, that it comes across as dislike or phobias or hate. For me, it does not come from that place. I have many friends in many circumstances,
Me too.
many family members in circumstances, that this would be detailing and describing. And for me, it comes more from a concern on a psychology side of things and on a recovery side of things, because of teaching things that are based off dysphorias and an ideology that makes that the normal is where I have concern. Caring for people who are in those places, I have full care and concern and love for. But it's the ideology, and it's just agreeing with what Tennessee has in their laws and in the guidance of that. And so I hate that it equals hate for many, because that's not the heart of where I come from.
Yeah, me either.
So.
Yeah, I think for me as a parent and grandparent, the biggest thing for me is just wanting the material to be in age-appropriate areas. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I'm not necessarily for banning books or taking books out of the library, but I think those being where kids can get to them, specifically where there's no supervision, where a kid gets to pick up a book where there's no parent there. It's fine for the parent to check the book out and go over it with their kids, that's fine. But I think not having a system in place where there is a restricted area for certain subjects, I think is our responsibility. And I think, I've heard from several commissioners, that's what they want. The Tennessee law is very clear about how that's protection of minors. So I think that's almost goes without saying that that's what we should follow as well.
And I too, and I agree with everything you said, and people, I know, think that it's a hate thing, but it's not a hate thing at all, but it is also, we don't pay for, there's a lot of things that are restricted on governmental, buildings and restricted being paid for with tax dollars. And this is tax dollars, this is government funded, and we have to set a boundary, and this is about curating, this isn't about banning. And people can still get this information outside of the library, and this isn't a First Amendment thing. You look at the Comstock Act, you look at numerous things, and so has nothing to do with any of that. So even if people
The entire
feel that,
collections things is about what is brought in and what is not.
Exactly.
We
It's all about
choose things
curating.
all the
She could
time.
be sued next.
And so this is about
It's the only thing that works.
what
Erica said
What
herself
is
that
on-
she would want this ideology to
So-
become the norm.
Exactly.
She's very defensive, and I don't understand why somebody like
all right,
that
so I'll
would have that
make a
kind of
motion
ideology on
to
board.
move
That-
forward my changes to the board for a vote.
Second?
My other thing is
Uh,
talk about
you can make- I can make
Oh, I
motions.
thought you made a motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved by
That
Mike.
excludes people who
All
belong
right,
to a certain environment,
second
so
by
what
Erica.
about their ideology, their, you know,
All in favor, say
social-
aye. Anybody opposed,
They do,
abstentions?
yeah.
All right, and you wanna make that motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Adjourn by Erica. Do you have a second?
Yes.
By Mike. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
I
All right,
didn't
now
say-
that you're adjourned, I'd like to ask,
I
because you
didn't
guys
say
are so
the-
focused on curating safe places for children, why are you